All right, let's get moving. So, how's everybody doing? Welcome. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is this working? Can everyone hear? Can you hear me in the back? Is everybody a little quiet? Maybe. Should I get closer? Oh my. All right, there we go. All right. So thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Charles Pratt. I'm a professor here at the Game Center. I've been involved with Spring Fighter pretty much since the beginning. There are a few people I do want to thank. Actually, we have sponsors for our event series, so I want to get them out of the way first. So Fresh Planet, Take-Two, Avalanche, Viacom Next, and We Play Dots are all companies based in New York that support the NYU Game Center and our event series, making sure that our events stay free and open to the public year-round. So if we get a round of applause for them, even though they're not here. They might be watching on stream or something. The other folks I want to thank, obviously, are Wise Guy and Arturo, who are always a huge part of why Spring Fighter happens at all, running the tournament and the stream. And on the Game Center side, actually, I also want to thank our photographer, Robert Paul, right there. The world-famous Robert Paul. And if you enjoyed the poster, that's by a local illustrator named Andy Brinkman, who wants to say thanks for the opportunity. He loved doing the poster for everybody. Nice. And to finish it up, Dylan and Gwenna, who and all of the Game Center librarians who kind of run around and make sure everything behind the scenes goes all right on our side. So a round of applause for them. Dylan's in the back there. Thank you, Dylan. And so, of course, also our two guests who I want to say a little bit about. Neither of them really need much of an introduction, but both of them have a really long history with Spring Fighter. Seth Killian has been doing the interviews here for, 5 years now, something like that. He kind of discovered that we as an academic department had a lot of interest in the fighting game community and wanted to help support the New York fighting game community especially. And he's always been super generous with his time, coming out, being sometimes part of our conferences, doing this event every year. First of all, a round of applause for Seth Killian, who is the best, obviously. And our special guest this year is Long Island Joe. So Joe, in the ancient history of Spring Fighter, he was actually our first guest, kind of. Even before Seth was involved, as I recall. For the very first year we did this tournament, the day before, we did a screening of a documentary all about Joe and other Street Fighter players called I Got Next, I believe is what it was called. Is that right, Joe? Yeah. And he came out and he sat after the screening and took questions. And so in a lot of ways, we're kind of bringing him back after all these years. He had, after his heroics at EVO and him, obviously always being such a great face for the NYC fighting game community, we wanted to have him back and get his sense of his career and his thoughts about fighting games, which is really what these talks are always about. To me, what's most important is that the fighting game community in New York, but all over the country, has such an amazing history, and I think that there's not enough effort to preserve that history and to kind of record what some of the greats and the legends, what they think about the world and what they think about the games that they play. And this talk series that always happens with Spring Fighter is an effort to do at least a little bit of that. So I want to bring our special guests out then, Seth Killian and Long Island Joe.
I'm the best RPS player in the room. Come see me.
Now that we've circled the mics, is this one on? Are we okay?
Cool. I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're comedians.
Now, Joe, should we start this by telling you why you're better at working, sort of adjusting the mic than me? Do we want to talk about that?
Sure, go ahead.
Right out of the gates?
Sure.
I've heard you can do a little bit of metal thrashing.
Oh my
A
God.
little bit of metal guitar and a little bit of growling.
Yes, thanks to my
got
family.
those?
Where's my family in the room? There's my family. Look at him. There's my dad, the music man. No, yeah, my whole family. Very musically inclined, actually. Very musically inclined.
It depends what kind of metal you're talking about. If we're willing to call that musically inclined, you're not deaf to false metal. My name's Seth. I think I know most of the people in this room, and to my family that's probably not watching, but they're tired of me. I just like to say thank you to the NYU Game Center. This is an amazing thing they do every single year. There's a lot of really amazing people that help put this together, and of course, thank all of you for coming out. To me, the fighting game community, again, has this crazy history that's been such a big part of my life, and New York in particular has always been sort of a real standout part of that, so I'm really happy to be here and talking to a guy who at least for now is still from Long Island. So I guess, Joe, like, let's start at the beginning. What's your first memory of playing a game? I guess.
Playing a game.
A game. We're gonna keep it friendly for 10 seconds.
I would say a game. I don't remember if it was Atari or an NES game, but we did have it in the house when I grew up. Like, I know my dad played games. I remember my sister and my brother like slightly enjoying the home console, like again NES and Atari. But I can't recall what, but it was definitely one or the other. Not sure which one or what system, but it was either an NES game or an Atari game.
Something with a pixel.
Yeah, definitely a pixel.
So like video games were kind of just like background noise until you caught the whiff of the magic of fighting games. Like where was the first taste of that for you?
7-Eleven on Green Street in Lindenhurst, New York, Long Island. It was a little tiny 7-Eleven that was around the block from my house. So whenever the family had to get something, I remember stopping there, like on the way to the beach, and you know what I mean, had to get whatever. And I just always wanted to go play. I remember seeing it was a cabinet, you know, MVS was a multi-video system for Neo Geo. So it had
totally legal.
Yeah. So it had multiple games in it, and I remember Sengoku 1, Art of Fighting 1, and Fatal Fury were the 3 games in the machine. So that was like my first, wow, what is this kind of thing.
Amazing. To me, like New York, part of the New York history is just places. Like, I mean, I remember I used to play at the Broadway Arcade, of course, Chinatown Fair, now on to the next level and things like that. What are some of the spaces that for you, coming from like Long Island, like might be a little bit different, but anything more than the 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
Were there other spaces that meant a lot to you?
Yeah, there was definitely a couple. There was after, I want to say when I started, I guess, understanding more instead of just mashing buttons at the 7-Eleven. It was there was a mall in Massapequa on Long Island, and they had a Timeout arcade. And then I remember it became Namco's Timeout. And then it was the only thing that I knew because I was obviously like 4 years old, and my dad and my mom took me there, and that was mostly my dad. But when I was there, that's all I knew. I knew of this one arcade. Yeah. And then as I started playing there, I started hearing about other arcades. There was a place called Spaceplex that I went to once. This was like a little bit further, like around probably like 95 or 96. But then there was this place called Fun Zone that also opened up. That was like a family amusement center that had rides and arcades and all that stuff, birthday parties. It was kind of like a washed down Dave & Buster's, I guess, so to speak, just with like more variety of games. Besides that, on Long Island, it was probably those 3 or 4 for me there. Yeah. And then I when I got old enough, I discovered New York City and everything in New York City.
Yeah, talk to me. I don't know if I want to hear about everything you discovered in New York City, but like, talk to me about what that transition was from, like, you know, I'm a guy, I'm playing at, you know, the Fun Zone or Timeout or whatever it might be, to like, now I'm going to go to a place specifically to play this game against strangers in a place. Like, what's that transition?
Yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking because I thought I was obviously really good, and then I found out that I was not very good, actually.
That was a luxury we had before the internet.
I was not very good at fighting games. I mean, like I was good in Long Island, and the guys kind of took me around. You know, they said, you know, let's go here. They asked my dad if we can take me here, and I kind of did fairly well against most of the people.
Now, how old are we talking here? Because you got a bunch of like guys with like a that are asking your dad if they could take you a place.
Yeah,
and, like,
the guys were like had to be like 20, 21, and they used to kind of like, you know, take me around and say, you know, because there was no internet, so no one knew who the small kid with the rat tail was who was good at video games.
Sounds like a hustle, pretty much.
Exactly,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
So the guys would ask my dad, they say, hey, can we take your son like here? So then they would take me there. My dad would take me there with them. But the atmosphere in being in the city was way different than being in Long Island. I mean, you can just, if you go shopping in Long Island, it's different than going shopping in Manhattan. It's totally different. So it was scary, and it was very eye-opening again because I found out that I suck.
So when did you decide that maybe this might be a thing you were actually okay at and maybe didn't suck?
I would say probably around the midlife of Third Strike was.
So it took you a
where-
long time.
Yeah, yeah, it took me quite a long time. Again, I was good in Long Island, and I was good for the people that I played around. But to be like good, like known as good, it was probably like the mid years of Third Strike, like 04, 05-ish or something like that, I would say.
Wow. When did you decide to officially become L.A. Joe? Was that
That
something you did or
No,
something got put on
I
you?
can actually tell you this story. P.S. I don't like that name at all. I just want to say that out loud.
It's your chance to pick a new one right
no,
now.
I can't. I'm screwed. It is what it is. It is what it is. I started off as I Love You. Just I Love You. It was anyone remember Kylera? Playing games on Kylera. Shout outs to Kylera. So that was my name in Kylera, was just I Love You. So when I started going to tournaments, I used that. And then David Tenchi, who's no longer here. Shout out to Tenchi. We all know Tenchi. Yeah. Yes. So yes, he would be like, "Oh yeah, Joe's coming to Chinatown," and people would be like, "Joe who?" And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, Joe, from Long Island." And that's just how he's the first person I remember saying L.I. Joe or Long Island Joe. It was actually David Tenchi. I remember it vividly. So. That's how that happened.
You'd like to blame him.
I do blame him, as a
Officially.
matter of fact. It is David's fault.
Well, I guess on the subject of nicknames, I always thought that one of the most sort of telling ways that the world talks about you is the nickname that Japanese players have for you. Are you familiar with this name?
The main character or something like that?
Well, except
Wasn't
so
that one of
I'm
them?
not going to go to like right. You're close.
one of them?
Right. Okay. I think you've been hitting the Google Translate on this one. It's a Japanese word for like shujinko, which is kind of main character, but another translation that I like that I think captures it a little better for me is protagonist.
Oh,
like,
okay, protagonist.
You're sort of like the hero of the story, and I think that's how a lot of people in America kind of look at you. You know something? I don't know. There's like, am I wrong? Is it just me? Maybe it might just be me. Yeah. So I don't know if you're the main character in every story, but you're sort of of the stories that you're in. It always feels a little bit like you're the hero of that story. You know a little bit about showmanship from your medal days, but I think part of the thing that makes it kind of easy for not just sort of people here to root for you, or people from Long Island or New York or the United States to root for you, is just sort of this kind of this enthusiasm and this energy and sort of respect for the game and respect for the players. Like, where does that come from?
I really don't know. Maybe it's from the way I was brought up. You know what I mean? Like I was brought up around a very loving and caring household, and everybody was equal, no matter where you were or who you were, where you were from, or anything like that. So I think that kind of transitioned over. And in fighting games, I think that's a big part of it. Like, we are just fighting game community. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, who your dad is, and where your parents work or anything. You know, it's just one kind of unified thing. And I was brought up like that. So I think that's like the way I kind of view it, you know what I mean? And like, I want to preserve it, and we're not going to get anywhere from being negative through it, you know what I mean?
I hear you. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like we're not going to be able to get too far. I don't think we even made it 30 seconds before we started talking about your family and your dad. So when we were here talking to Ricky last year, she was saying how her father was actually the one who introduced her to the game. Daigo's father was always supportive, not really of games especially, but just, hey, you're great at something, why don't you follow that? Talk to me about the role of your family and sort of helping you forward in this path and encouraging you.
Yeah, family was always big. I mean, obviously, my dad literally took me around arcades across Long Island. My mom was supportive in her own kind of way. She didn't not let me do it. Like, I can never remember a single time where I was punished and I really wasn't allowed to play. You know what I'm saying? I think it was she kind of knew it was a little bit more than me just wanting to sort of play games, I guess. But everyone, including my dad, very, very supportive. Again, mom in her own way, she didn't necessarily push it, you know what I mean? But she was okay with it, which most moms, I think, it wouldn't be like that.
The best you're going to get.
Yeah,
because you were playing a lot of Mortal Kombat
yeah,
at that
exactly,
time, too.
Yeah, she didn't stop me from playing Mortal Kombat when I was growing up or anything like that. But obviously to have supporting parents is a huge thing, especially being that young and being allowed to travel and stuff like that. I mean, my traveling days didn't start till I was older, because I wasn't allowed to cross the street till I was like 17 years old, because my mom wouldn't let me. So that's one thing that's why I had to be with my dad. You know what I mean? So when I got a little older, she actually let me stories from like my brother and sister. They weren't allowed to cross the street till they were like 31. So I kind of got like the better end of the stick, where my mom actually let me get out there.
You got a sister at home right now, right?
I
it's
definitely
not allowed
do.
to
No,
cross the street.
my sister is still probably not allowed to cross the street. But yeah, she kind of eased up on me when it came to. So I guess that was actually her own way of supporting me. I was going to the city by myself at 16. My brother and sister would have never, ever been allowed to go to the city at 16. Never.
So your mom was supportive in the sense that she didn't actively stop you.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
got that.
Yes.
And your dad has been going, is sort of known in the fighting game community for going a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
And sort of showing up and being sort of your number one fan in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty rare experience that I think, maybe some people have been able to have, but like the idea that you can be sort of fighting for yourself, fighting for, a region, as well as fighting for sort of the support of your family. You think that has sort of an impact on your game or the way you approach things?
I think it has a huge impact. I really play, when I play, I really think about, it's never really like about the money, you know what I'm saying? I remember actually when I won Winter Brawl, I left without the money. Like I totally forgot that I got money. Like they were like, Eric was like, yo, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I just play, it's just something I'm really passionate about, man. Like I want to do it for the people, and I want to do it for the scene, and that's really my big vision. Like, I mean, yeah, the money's cool and all. It's great that you get it when you win, but I think that's like a really small way to look at it. When you really look at the grand scheme of things, there's way more behind it than just winning, $2,000 or whatever at an event. You know what I'm saying? It goes a little bit bigger than that, at least for me.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know. I think it's true in a lot of ways, but to sort of watch you bring it forward is kind of incredible. What is the kind of legacy that you would like to see remembered? What makes the fighting game community special? What's the things you want to see stay the same? What are the things you want to see evolve?
I mean, as far as evolve goes, I mean, we're E-League, we're now on TV. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a huge step for us in general. I mean, ESPN was also a huge step, but there is something magical about that old fighting game FGC Chinatown Fair kind of feeling where you're really rubbing shoulders against someone. There was I don't want to use the word aggressive because it wasn't aggressive. It was like very raw, you know what I mean? Like pre Street Fighter 4. It was super, super raw. There was no like glamour to it. And I do kind of, I do miss that like kind of raw part of it. But I think in order for us to evolve and be more, we do have to kind of take some of these things. Like again, we have to, I don't want to say clean up the act. It's kind of hard to explain, but those sort of steps need to be taken for us to get to a level where, for instance, my kids could actually be real professional video game players. Not that there's not now, but to have fighting games be on the map, kind of like League of Legends is and like Counter-Strike is and stuff like that. So I do think it takes that kind of sacrifice to kind of give up how we were slightly, but I don't want to lose all of us. I think that really made us. You know what I mean? That is us.
Yeah, there is something just unique about like the physicality of. I mean, obviously they're very sort of physical games to look at them, but then like being in a space like smelling people, like having to shove your way to the front of a line or something like that. What is it that you think about that experience that adds so much to fighting games? Even now, and online is pretty good. You can play an endless stream of people. But your people are still willing to go all the way across town, across the country, across the world to sit together and play. What do you think's behind that?
I think there's nothing like creating that relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's me and you. We can be on the other side of the country, but we have this same common interest. And to find that, and again, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, whatever, we still have that common ground. And to have that and actually sit next to somebody and experience it together, like you don't really get that from online. In some ways you do, but it's a lot different than sitting next to someone and feeling them play and like seeing the stress in them and stuff like that. That's things that I miss about playing like that. But yeah, that would be
The fighting game community, like, what is it to you? Is it a family and friends? Is it a competition? Is it a career? Like, what pops out there to you?
The first thing that I think about is actually like my second family. Like I really do. Like when we go to events and stuff like that, it's almost like Thanksgiving, but we're playing video games. You know what I'm saying? It's almost the same thing. But that's like kind of how it is for me. Like I love seeing the people. Like I just like to be around it. I like to be around the people that enjoy it also. Again, that common ground thing for me goes a long way.
Yeah, I feel like I couldn't agree more. Like just seeing some of the people in here
Yeah.
today. We were just talking to a guy I hadn't seen. He's like, oh, it's been a few years. And I was like, yeah, it's like that. Like,
Yeah.
you can come in, come out, and
it's like nothing. Yep.
it's like nothing
Yep.
has changed, and you can just hang out the same as you always could. That'll be it.
Saved it.
So part of going back to sort of the Joe as the protagonist, like in a lot of ways, I feel like you're sort of on the cusp of a couple different things, right? Like you're still a working man who's, you know, holds down a job, but now as the game has evolved and as we see, you know, there's more players, there's more opportunities, so we've had a larger field than ever before of players who are basically full-time professionals, where they play some of these games, and that's their entire sort of, you know, job existence. What is it like as somebody who's competing at the top level of the game, but is not sort of a full-time 100% player? How does that work? Can it work? What does that look like?
It's extremely difficult to have to kind of sort of balance these two things out. You know, the guys that are good, they dedicate a lot of time, and that's why they're great. You know what I mean? No one's good by waking up in the morning and just hoping that they're good. You know, they put in the time, they put in the dedication. That's really what it takes. So to have to actually balance the two, it's hard. You know what I mean? It's really not easy. It definitely took a toll on me. You know, we've had some conversations in the past and stuff like that where it was really hard to uphold this, you know, L.I. Joe was top 8 at EVO image. And it's been actually pretty stressful, believe it or not, because I'm not always going to be L.I. Joe top 8 at EVO. You know, it's just not fathomable to me at this point in time in my life. I don't have the time to actually dedicate to the game as much as I would like to, as much as I enjoy it. But yeah, it's, again, I try to either, am I balancing life or am I playing video games? You know, am I worried about stuff with my job and at home and my career, or am I worrying about what I'm going to do at CEO? You know what I mean? It's a very hard juggle, but, you know, I try my best.
Yeah, I think the results have been impressive, and that's one of the ways I guess I look at some of the big changes in the scene, especially lately, have been, you know, when I first started playing, we were lucky to have a couple of events a year, you know, like was crazy, so you had to leave it all out there in the field. Now we're lucky enough to have like a lot of events over the course of the year, but one of the things we've talked about before is it's both just a grind sometimes physically to make that kind of travel, but then the other thing you're up against is having to show a real, just incredible consistency.
Yeah.
And when I think about L.I. Joe, I think about a guy who plays with a lot of heart, right? Like, you know, your technique is world class, but like, you know, you're going to drop some more confirms than a guy who's playing 8 hours a day to practice those confirms. So you play with a lot of insight and trying to look into the mind of the other guy, but consistency is, in a lot of ways, the name of the game, given all these events. And you have a style that's not going to be quite as consistent just by its nature, much less the ability to practice. So, like, when you are having these sort of like world-beating moments, talk to me about what's going on in your head, and like what makes a great day? When do we get like the Joe who can beat everybody in the world?
That was the drive I had, I remember, like, was unbelievable when Street Fighter V was going to come out. You know what I mean? Like, when it first came out, I remember, like, looking at Street Fighter V, like, the words, and I was like, I'm going to be so effing good in this game. Like, I want it so bad. You know what I mean? Because I remember I was good in the beginning of Street Fighter IV, and I was like, I want that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be that good again. I want to be that guy again. And I also had the support of a lot of my friends back at home. Yeah. You know, like we all, I mean, some of you guys out there remember, we were at every tournament for the first like 4 months of the game. We went to every tournament, everywhere, drove all over the place, and then it slowly started to fade away, like a little bit after EVO. Also, I got some changes in my job, so that kind of hurt the way that I can travel. But that drive and dedication that I had, like I really recall it. I remember before EVO, I remember watching matches. I remember taking notes on my phone. I've never taken notes in school, but I was taking notes on my phone. Like, my friends would be like, shout outs to Brad. Brad would be like, what is this? I'm like, it's frame data, Brad. He's like, you don't know frame data. He's like, well, what are you doing this for? But yeah, I just had this insane level of drive to be that guy. And then, but also the way my life was, it actually kind of let me be that guy at that particular time. And again, the support factor from the friends who, if I'm home, like, dude, we're playing. Okay. Now it's like, hey guys, what are we doing? No, you know, nothing. We're just not doing anything. So
yeah. When you started talking about the frame data, as like, because you wouldn't strike me as a guy who would be super into that, but that's changing these days. Like there's a little less room for people at the top to be like, frame data, frame schmata. I don't know what the I don't know how to finish that one. But what happens to a band of like sort of the merely excellent players versus, do you have to be a scientist at the same time? Is there still room for a guy who just sort of wants to play his best and doesn't want to take all of his notes on the phone or watch the tapes?
I mean, I think it's possible, but I think that might go back into the consistency thing, where you might be good here and there, but to have that real solid consistency throughout the board, I think it's really necessary now. And the reason why is because everybody else knows this information. So if you're the only one that's lacking on this information, it already kind of puts you at a disadvantage as to how good you can possibly do, or if you can beat so and so, whatever. This guy has all the knowledge. Is it possible? Of course, yeah. Street Fighter 5, you block the DP, you pick Laura, you can win like that. But sorry, I was kidding.
Shout out to Javits. Yeah.
But all jokes aside, yeah, it could happen, but the fact that the knowledge is so out there and everybody knows it now, it's hard to beat those guys that literally know the data in and out. Like how do you defend again? How does your offense change? His is on point because he knows everything in and out. But you might be guessing here and there about certain things, and that's where the consistency would hurt you.
Do you feel that impacts your ability to play? So pick a game, like think of a game that you play, a fighting game that you're not, looking to necessarily be competitive at. Does it sort of hurt your ability to enjoy these games if you're not able to sort of like, if you know what professionalism looks like in that space and you're not willing to go that distance, do you feel like that's changing the way people look at the game or changing the way they engage with it? I mean, or is it still? Can you still have fun?
Yeah, I think it. Do you need it? Like I enjoy playing Guilty Gear. I enjoy playing KOF. Though I know the information and the data like I do Street Fighter 5. I definitely don't, but I highly enjoy those games tremendously. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to play it for fun and just to get your chops good or whatever, like it doesn't necessarily matter. But I do think to get that high level in certain games where that data is necessary to get there, you need the data. But again, enjoying the game is just enjoying the game. You don't need to have that information at all.
Yeah. New York has a pretty amazing legacy of players from, Eddie Lee to Justin Wong to, Yipes and Sanford and, Chris G.
Arturo. Where's
Arturo? Somewhere, I guess, if he still plays games, I think. Yeah. No, Arturo's fantastic. Please don't put like some stupid emoji on my head or something. What does it mean to you to be part of a New York? Is there something special about New York Street Fighter? What does it mean to be part of the New York fighting game community?
No, there is definitely not a single place I'd rather be good at fighting games than New York. There's not California, not down south, but New York. Yeah, like I'm very glad that my legacy, I guess, was from New York. Like I really will not have it any other way. Like I say all the time, like being in Chinatown, being next to Yipes, watching Stanford, Justin. I remember Ricky coming there. I remember you coming down sometimes. Like just to be there, to be able to experience all that. Like I would not change that for anything in the world. No.
What does New York do better than any place else?
Everything.
All right, let me move on. We're not gonna.
Easiest question you got. Give me a harder one, Seth.
So, I guess when I talk about the way you approach the game, you seem to me like a guy who's sort of off and down, but like never ever out. It's got like kind of a Rocky Balboa kind of quality to it almost.
I'll take it.
Well, not so fast. How do you see the way you approach the game?
I do approach my games kind of sort of lackadaisical for the most part. You know what I mean? Like I know a lot of guys a lot of people in this room make fun of me all the time for the way that I play. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm just continuously doing something, or you know what I'm saying? I'm the guy that's going to do it until it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I'm
going
to hold up forward until you tell me I shouldn't be holding up forward. You know what I mean? But I do have a breaking point. That two people in this room I can never beat ever is Arturo and Kevin Landon. These guys are both in the room because those guys know how to slow the game down to the point where I can't play how I want to play. And that's, if you ever want to beat me, that's all you got to do is make sure I can't play. You got that? You got that, Bunce? All right. Just don't let me play how I want to play. You know, and those two guys have figured it out to a science.
That's fantastic. So we've heard about a couple of your nemesises. Did you have a sensei, I guess? Did you have somebody that sort of taught you the game, broke down the game, or sort of opened you up to realizing this is more than like just a button masher?
There has been like, can I give you a couple of people?
No.
Please?
Yes. I guess.
Back when I was like growing up, I do think there were these two gentlemen, Rob and Jay. They were two Mortal Kombat players, and I just remember those two guys like actually being supportive and wanting me to win and actually showing me things and stuff like that. When I got to Chinatown Fair, it was like a combination of literally everybody in those walls. You know, I've listened to Arturo talk, I've listened to Justin talk, I've been to Justin's house where we would just play thousands of games of Third Strike and just sit there, and he would. Justin's advice is kind of like, yeah, just block. So but that's hard advice, but that's literally Justin's advice. How do I do this? Block.
That's the least fun thing in the game?
Yeah,
just do more of that. Yeah.
So I can't do anything. I got to block. Okay. But I mean, it still happens now. I mean, I text Javits all the time. I'm like, Javits, show me something with Urian, please, because I can't figure it out. He's like, all right, I'll try. Or even with Nash, like, there's been like, honestly, I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has definitely helped me in one game or another, but those are like some specific people I can really remember hearing them, you know what I mean, like actually having the conversations, whether it was at dinner or playing the game or whatever, but those are definitely some faces that just stick out in my head.
Yeah, and again, that sort of social connection is
Yeah.
the thing that sort of brings
That's
you
my
into
thing.
the game and helps you sort of elevate. I don't think of you as like a character loyalist, but when you're looking at a game, much less a game that changes over time. You know, now it seems to be the way that people are doing more continual updates to a game. You might have to rethink your character. What is it that goes into your mind when you look for a character in a game? What are you looking for?
I actually pick my characters on looks. There's a game that we play on Long Island. It's just fact. It's true. Yeah, I guess. He looks like he's mad good. My friends at home will put on a game and they'll be like, let's find the Joe character. And then they're always right. Everybody's always right. It's kind of like that edgy looking kind of sort of character, like semi-badass looking, but badass to the point where he doesn't care that he's badass. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard.
So you're an edgelord? A little bit? No, not like that.
I guess.
Okay.
I guess. No, yeah. I do kind of pick those characters, but swords are cool.
Okay, give me like one of the most Joe-like characters that you felt best about right out of the gates.
The most Joe-like character was
Or
probably
you knew. You just saw through the window at a distance and you get the misty filter and the hearts.
the most recent one was probably Unio with Gordo. I was like, oh, I like that character. I was like, he's cool looking. And then they're like, oh, yeah, he's also the best character in the game. I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Did it again.
Whoops. I didn't know.
I didn't know. I looked at him like, wow, he's pretty badass. You know, he looks
So
pretty good.
If that's what's happening at the sort of the character level, how do you decide when it's time to pull stakes and switch characters and sort of roll with the kind of changes you get in a continually updated games?
Actually, I have a really bad habit of that where I always try to switch characters. This is actually the first game in a while where I switched characters and competed with them. Like in Street Fighter 4, I picked Sagat. I used him throughout the entire lifespan of Street Fighter 4. If he was good, if he was bad, if he whatever.
Sort of slowly.
Yeah, slowly fell down the hill. But I always used them. You know, even in Third Strike, you know, like I did some hunting, but I picked Ken and like I kind of messed with Urian, but I never tried to play any other characters. You know what I mean? It's just I pick a character and I get kind of stuck. So like in Street Fighter 5, I picked Nash. This is the first time where I'm actually not competing with the same character from the start of a game, honestly. Like, yeah, like I'll dabble and I'll mess around with friends or when we're chilling at a session or whatever. But as far as competing goes, I usually pretty much do stick to the one character. So again, this is the first time where I'm like, all right, maybe I kind of want to try this, or this character's not really cutting it anymore. So
What drives that for you? Is it a feel thing, or is it just results? Like too many
It's a
bad
feel
matchups?
thing. No,
Yeah.
I think it's a feel thing. Like I like Sagat always felt like Sagat in Street Fighter 4 to me. You know what I mean? Like I could play him pretty much almost the same way throughout most of the versions, besides there being some changes to damage and a few other things. But you can still play the Sagat game. You throw fireballs, he jumps, you do DP. Pretty easy. You know, like for instance, especially with Nash, I feel like you just can't grab Nash the way you were able to play him in Season 1. So it kind of like not being able to have that same feeling when I play the character, that's really what drove me to switch. And Urian's actually my favorite Street Fighter character ever. So I was like, all right, let's try Urian.
There you go.
Yeah. Not my fault he's good, sorry. Again.
No sympathy from them. Like no one was feeling bad for you. So we talked about characters and sort of how you roll with the changes. How is it that you approach a competition or a tournament? Do you sort of look at it? Okay, I'm playing this guy next, so I'm going to study up for that. Do you focus more on finding a character who can sort of, has minimal bad matches? What's your approach to success there, and what do you find works for you?
I actually used to not want to look at the bracket. I was like, nobody tell me anything. It's like, because I don't want to know who I'm playing. Because I feel like if I know that, I'm going to make myself lose before I even start. 'Cause then I start worrying about things and start analyzing what I think is going to happen, and then I kind of trip over myself. So I started off as being like, I don't want to know anything. And now I'm kind of like, I still don't want to know, but at EVO, I was more like, well, you kind of knew who you were going to play at EVO because it was like an hour and a half before your next match. So I kind of had no choice but to find out. And everyone in the room was like, oh, you're playing this person. And, I was like, oh, thank you. But I do tend to actually rather not know and just kind of, when I hear about it, or if it's like a couple of minutes before, like, I'm at my pool or whatever, then I get to see, and then I kind of like soak it all in. And before I play, I'm really like, I try and think of the character and how that character wants to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this character's strengths? What are his weaknesses? And how does my character counterbalance that?
Yeah, how do you fit into that?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think, there are people that take a lot of notes and consult a lot of things, but I think there's something to be said for, tournaments are already stressful.
Yeah.
Like, not getting that kind of, not sort of feeling overburdened, but like staying in the moment a little bit and not devoting your brain resources to something that you can only do a little bit about. It's easy to look too far ahead in the bracket. So you talked about, like, you've had a year of some highs and some lows, and talking about like trying to maintain that consistency. What is that like sort of internally? Because the player expectation is like, we're moving into an era where one of the things I guess that's different to me is, it used to be you go to a fighting game event and you'd see very few people that were spectators that weren't also competitors. Now I think you get more spectators who aren't competitors. So that's sort of the norm, is people that are there to watch rather than play. They're looking to you to just be consistent. How do you balance that and the sort of the demands of the fans and sort of your own investment in the game?
Yeah, it's again pretty stressful. We was talking before about the whole Evo top 8 thing. It's really hard for me to stay consistent and be consistent with the amount of time that I do devote to things. But again, I always don't want to let anybody down. You know what I'm saying? So I always obviously do try my best, no matter what game or no matter what the tournament is. But I remember after Evo and talking to like Justin and those guys that are pretty consistent across the board, and Justin was like, "Yeah, it sucks, right? Because now everyone thinks you're going to be the best player in the world, and if you lose, it's like, oh yeah, you lost. You're only as good as your last match." You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter.
You've been winning for 10 years.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
Washed up.
Yep,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Daigo can't win in Street Fighter V now. Everyone thinks he sucks, but nothing matters that what he's done or how good he was in his previous games. But unfortunately, that's kind of like the way I think other people see it now, unfortunately.
So what is it that they should know as players? Like, what is it that, you know something from the inside as a player? Like, what is it that you wish you could tell them?
Tell who? Like spectators?
I guess, yeah, the guy who's like, not necessarily in your case, but in anybody else is like, that guy's washed up. He hasn't won in 2 weeks or whatever it might be.
It's again slightly unfair. You know what I mean? It's slightly unfair.
On the internet?
Yeah.
Someone's being unfair.
It's it is a really difficult thing to swallow. I just had to go through with it again. Shout outs to E-League. I just got totally washed in E-League. You know what I mean? But it was also some of the best players in the world. Ricky, also 0-7. K-Brad 6-1. And these are world class players. You know what I'm saying? It's just consistency, especially in this particular game, I think is more difficult than it's ever been. Not sure why. Maybe it's due to the.
We're not here to speculate. Yeah.
Maybe it's due to the game, or is it not? Is it the players? Is it the stress level that we're playing at now? Because now again, things are changing. Things are becoming way different. But yeah, I think it's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, considering that you have to deal with it, so if we're talking about Street Fighter V, it is sort of a high stakes game that can be fast one way or the other. You're dealing with increasingly professional players who miss less and less, so there's less of a margin for error there. You're in the position of having to deal with it. Like, what is the right kind of mindset for dealing with that? Do you feel like you've got it now? Like, you're obviously handling it pretty well, but like, what advice do you have to people that are going to have to grow up in this kind of environment where it's, you're only as good as your last fight, and the fights are getting harder all the time?
I just think knowing that taking the L, I mean, this might sound kind of like cheesy, but you know, like if you don't lose, you won't really get any better. So now, like, I understand the way I went into E-League, and I know how I was when I was sitting down, and I know how I felt, and now it's just a matter of cycling those feelings out the next time I play. Is when I sit down and be like, I know how I felt, and I don't ever want to feel like that again while I'm playing. You know, so again, you just kind of learn from your mistakes. You know, you win, you lose, whatever. As long as you take something from it, and trust me, I'm taking a lot from that loss. You know, but yeah, as long as thanks, Manny.
Yeah, nothing like your friends.
Thanks,
like,
yeah. Again, as long as you. As long as we're taking something from it, and again, I think I learned my lesson, so I think it's important for me and my growth. So
let's talk about some what have been some of your biggest wins? Not necessarily biggest stage, but that's fine. But like, what have been some of the wins that have meant the most to you?
I remember actually the first Street Fighter 4 tournament, the Sensation tournament. Some of you guys might have been there. For some reason, that tournament just really sticks out in my head because it was like wow, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And like I'm at a tournament and all these guys are here, and I think I got like second or third or something. I got second, and it was like, wow, you know, like I'm here. You know what I'm saying? After kind of being good in Third Strike and playing some KOF and in a Chinatown Fair and playing Tekken and Soul Calibur, but just not really being there. And actually, that was what the first tournaments where I was like up there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it was a new game at the time, so it was a new game. You knew it was competitive, and you could see sort of where you are. So
exactly,
it was like
that one obviously sticks in my head for a while. And I always talk about the time I played Nuki in Japan at SBO, and I beat him, and I played him one game and I beat him, so I'm never playing him ever again. So he's got to hold that. One game at Third Strike. Oh, that's it. I'm done.
Against Nuki, that's a pretty good.
Yes, that was SBO 2008. I remember it clear as day, and I was like, yes, never playing him ever again.
You got to know when to hold him, and know when to
that's
fold him.
That's definitely a fold him.
Definitely, yeah. Know when to run away. So I guess, like as interest in fighting game community sort of continues to grow from a lot of sort of traditional esports organizations and things like that. What is the thing that you think makes the fighting game community sort of most special, and what should they be looking out for to try and make the most of and to help celebrate?
I think this is the perfect example. Just doing things like this and community events where we're not really worried about a competition per se. You know what I'm saying? Where we're getting together, we're here, we're discussing things we love, and we have the same passion for it. So again, things like this, community things, making sure that we kind of sort of pave the way. And I think that's something that I really want to do. Like, there's nothing more important to me in the scene when someone's like, dude, I started playing because of you, or like that to me is like the greatest thing in the world. So it means like I'm being recognized for just something that I have a whole lot of passion for. And to sort of pave the way for the next Justin, you know, the next Ricky, the next whoever, you know, the next Daigo, like that to me is important to help kind of pave that road for these guys to come up and, you know, take care for the next versions of whatever games we play.
I think that's that has a lot to do with being a part of any community, is you want to see it live on and grow and be healthy and sort of be able to pass the same good things that came to you from the community forward to another group of people. Part of that, you know, we talk about like, I don't know what this looks like for the fighting game community, but you know, you got your 4 pillars of hip hop with like you're doing some rhyming, do some DJing, a little breakdancing, and graffiti. So you know, you've been a player, you've been an organizer, you've been sort of a national hero. Like, let's talk about the tournament organizing, like what that's meant to you, and sort of how that fits into sort of what you're trying to pave forward to the next generation.
Yeah, as far as that's the perfect thing to do as far as the next generation goes, you know what I'm saying? Give them the outlet to be the people that they want to be, you know, to be the players that they want to be. And there's nothing, I almost get the same kind of enjoyment of watching a top 8 and like being within the crowd of like my own tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like people do it for me. Like I go to all these tournaments.
Yeah.
I want to do it for other people. You know what I'm saying? Like I want you guys to compete, and I want someone to be the winner, and I want someone to be mad that he lost, and then I want to see him next year, and I want to see him remember that loss and change that. You know?
It really is just sort of that platform
Yeah.
for you to go out and prove yourself. I don't know. What does it mean to you to give back? Is it just that what you see in sort of a kid, or sort of like how do you know you're winning?
What do you mean winning?
In terms of giving something back to the community? Is it a big thing? Is there a single goal, or does it come out just in the smaller side?
Yeah,
of this?
I think it's all about the smaller important things, because they all lead up to a bigger thing. You know what I'm saying? All those small, tiny things that I will do or I will try to do. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if I'm messaging someone on Twitter or I'm hosting an event. You know what I'm saying? I think all the wins count. All the wins count, no matter how big or how small they are, as far as the development. That's all I want. Like, again, as long as I can develop this and help this even maintain it, maybe not grow it, but as long as I can help maintain it, like that's all I want.
It's like a garden.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess what is something that people don't know about L.A. Joe that they should know? And if you give a bad answer to this question, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room who can
Honestly,
give a better
unfortunately,
answer.
I know like 80% of the people in this room. I feel like you guys know an awful lot about me. I will say this. We talked about it before. I was actually, up to 2 weeks ago, I was going to defect the East Coast. I was moving to San Francisco. I'm sorry, man. But yes, so that is something that actually not a lot of people know. I kind of held it under wraps until I knew yes or no. But I'm officially not going. But yeah, up to 2 weeks ago, I actually quit my job. I gave a 2-week notice, quit my job, and everything. My dad knows about it. Kat knows about it. Hey, Kat. How are you? Kat knows about it. But yeah, I was going to defect the East Coast. I was going to lead you guys, but
we call it the West Coast.
I'm sorry. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
The other,
So
the other
one.
The other East Coast.
Yes, the other East Coast. I was going to go to the other East Coast. So I guess that's something that not a lot of people in here know about. But don't worry, I'm not going. I'm staying here.
Yeah. What's kept you going for so many years? And yeah, what's next? Like, what looks like a good goal for you to set yourself?
Being the best Marvel Infinite player in the United States of America.
That's a tough goal, especially out here.
We'll see. I'm always good when games first come out. We'll see. Depend if that game comes out like three months before Evo, I'm gonna win Evo. It's easy.
You're one of those. Those guys who's good for the first 3
I'm
months.
definitely one of those.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm really excited for the future of the scene, man. Like, especially now, like, and we have Injustice 2 coming out, Tekken 7 is coming out, Marvel Infinite's coming out. They're still working on Street Fighter 5. So I just can't wait to see what else is going to come out of it. Hopefully, we get Fighting Layer 2, One Love to Street Fighter EX. Hopefully they make that game. We get to play that game. But yeah, I love fight. Like, there's one of my favorite moments ever is actually, I guess you guys don't know this either. One of my favorite moments ever is actually looking at the character select screen of a fighting game. There's like nothing better than seeing that first image and being like, oh, who am I going to pick? Like, I legit love that feeling. And it's just, if I can chase that and continually get that throughout the years, like, I can never see myself not playing fighting games in general.
You're in it for the long haul.
I'm definitely in it for the long haul. That's, yeah.
I love that answer. Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you, Seth.
So talking about giving back and sort of the longer road, there's super strong crop of new players on a lot of games, but certainly on Street Fighter, we're looking at guys like NuckleDo, Punk, Smug.
That's my man, Punk.
Yeah, there's right like
the god.
So the environment has changed a lot for them. What is a thing that you would want them to know that you know now, having been through all that you've been through? What is a thing that you know that they should know but probably don't?
I want them to understand how important the position that they're in is. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are now like the forefront of Street Fighter, which is, you know, one of the biggest fighting games ever. So I just really hope that they understand, like, I don't want to say power, maybe influence, maybe be the word influence of how they can have on again, how I said, like the next group of people, like these guys are now walking the road that a lot of us paved, and I want them to continue that, but also do it in a good light. You know what I mean? Like I want the scene to continue to grow and be positive, and you know what I'm saying? I hope it doesn't, not that they would, but just, they're not just necessarily playing a game, I guess, anymore, sort of. Does that make sense?
Sounds like the ending credits to a fighting game.
Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah, like let's dig into, like, walk me through like the best possible timeline for the FGC, and walk me through a dark timeline for the FGC.
The dark time is melty blood in the bathroom. That still happens. That's the so we'll be playing Street Fighter in the bathroom next to Melty Blood. Melty Blood's a good game, by the way. I love Melty Blood. So best possible would be you know, like, I hope that in the next generations where, you know, we don't have to have our kids go play baseball or basketball. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just hope that this becomes something almost like that. You know what I mean? Where it would be okay to have your kids go to some kind of gaming thing or something like that. I mean, maybe that'd be cool. You know what I mean? But it's will it get there? I don't know. But just along those lines where we can be more recognized for a skill that we have, and you know, like that competitive drive that we all share. So that's it. So I guess just that recognition at a higher level.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And I guess that would make your parents and your dad like an esports pioneer. It's the guy who brought his kids to a game. Well, that's a pretty incredible vision, and I know we were running a little bit behind schedule, so I wanted to make sure there was room for some questions before we go over to the top 8.
I can't wait.
Thanks for your compelling vision of the future and the bathroom melty blood. Yeah. Incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody here who does not know Joe and has a question?
Yeah, I feel like I know everybody. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you feel like you're stronger early on in a game.
Oh, that's a fact, yes.
Do you think that mostly has to do with the thing you alluded to of just like loving, discovering a character? Because it also, like being strong early on in a game means that you love going to the lab. Like you can't be strong early in a game if you don't like figure shit out about your characters. So like where did that come from, and like how do you think that evolved over the course of your career and stuff like that?
Well, I think it's that initial drive of wanting, like you said, wanting to be good and wanting to learn a character, and just again seeing how good I am at said game. You know what I'm saying? And it's just to start fresh. It's like the most exhilarating feeling. You know what I'm saying? And I just have this knack where I maybe because I've been doing it since I'm young, but like I pick it up quick. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I hit a wall, I think, sometimes. You know what I mean? So I'm good up until that wall sometimes, for the most part. But that particular part of the start of the drive of where are we going, what character, let's figure this out, who's cheap, who's not, like that's like my favorite part of a fighting game. So it makes me want to play. So it makes me want to travel, makes me want to compete. And also my friends too, as I said before, like in Street Fighter V, dude, we played every single day. That's all we did was play Street Fighter V. And it worked, you know what I mean? Like it worked. So again, to have that fresh start and have everybody start together and everyone does it, you know, I mean, all you guys and girls know, man, as soon as the game comes out, the grind is just like, bam, we talk about the grind. When Marvel comes out, we're grinding Marvel. You know, it's just that talk, and then actually when you get the game in your hand, do you know I spent $300 on Marvel 3 to get it 2 weeks early? $300.
Also,
I drove to Brooklyn.
Totally legal, I'm sure. Yeah.
I drove to Brooklyn to spend $300 on Marvel just because I wanted to play Marvel 3 that bad. You know what I mean? And I would do it again. Whatever. But yeah, just that to have that drive, man, that start freshman makes me want to be that good. And also the support system from the friends who feel the same way. So.
I remember being in New York showing off Marvel 3 to some people, and Joe like snuck in.
I didn't sneak in.
He had like a fake press badge or something like that. And I was like, hey, what up, Joe? You want to play some Marvel? And I think we showed you it was the Magneto.
Yes. I picked MSP. No, I'm sorry, MSS. Excuse me. I picked MSS. Yes. And I was like, "What do you mean I can't ROM?" Seth. He's like, "You can. I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
It's just and then you figured it out, but like in the 20 minutes before you got kicked out."
Yes.
But
and then I was like, "I can't play
He was
no
so
more."
excited about the game. He made me more excited about the game.
I just love new games, man. I don't care what it is. Like I just like new fighting games.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
the most undiscovered country,
Yes.
right? Like before those lab nerds take over.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me get a shot at this.
You got to
first.
get in
Yeah.
good before. Yeah. Oh, someone was pointing at
Ultimizer, I
Jav.
see
It's
you.
like
Yes, sir. Go ahead, dude. All right, go ahead. I can't wait. Okay.
okay, I don't want to miss this, so I'm going to repeat the question just for anybody that's watching. Joe likes Final Fantasy. If you had to pick any Final Fantasy character that best represents him, who would it be and why?
Joe likes edgelords, right? So I would be Vincent, free. Free.
That is the correct answer. Yeah.
Right? No, I was gonna say, as much as I don't like Final Fantasy 15, I did kind of like Noctis a little bit, even though there wasn't too much development. But I liked the story. I liked like the whole struggle thing he had going on. Like I did like Noctis and Kate Sith. So those three. Yeah, Kate Sith. What's up? Maybe if it doesn't come out anything but a 3DS, I'll play it. Yeah, yeah, I'll play it on PS4. Yeah, come see me. Come see me. Come see me. Yes, Jeff.
So a lot of players, like famous top players, they're always known for like having a particular style. Like Daigo's known for the Umeshoryus and the really explosive, risky play. You have like Arturo's known for being defensive, and Kevin, whatever. What would you say is your style? Because like a lot of between us, we just say your style is like weird.
Yeah. I get that. I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
But what would you say is like when you're playing? Like, what's your goal when you're fighting another player, and why do you think that makes you do well versus like international players? Like when you're hot, you're hot. But what do you think that is? Like, that is your quality.
Because I feel like I kind of go into everything almost the same. Like, I don't care who you are or what your name is, whatever. Like, I'm going to hold up forward until you tell me I can't hold up forward. People are like, yo, why are you jumping on Daigo? Like, well, he didn't give me a reason not to jump on Daigo. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like my style is more of like a heartfelt thing than the scientific style of the frame data and stuff like that. And it pays off for me sometimes. I could use a little bit of both. And again, during Street Fighter V, I started grabbing some of that mathematical style, as you know, Jab, and a couple other people, where I was actually trying to study frame data and understand more instead of just feeling more, you know.
Yeah, I feel like one of the other things, you're being kind to yourself, but for me, one of the things I see in Joe also is like nobody does mental damage to Joe except Joe, right? Like, so it's very hard to shake that guy.
And Kevin and Arturo.
Yeah, well, right. Everyone has their secret, like, yeah, but like, yeah, that's when I say, like, if you're down but never out, like, if you decide that you're going to come back and win the match, it doesn't mean you will, but it means you are going to take the right decisions to make that possible, and that's pretty rare. A lot of people get shaken up, even some of the best of the best.
Chaz, yeah, so Chaz, hand go up.
Yeah. So in esports right now, you have kind of like small games that are similar. So you got LoL and Dota, and you got like first-person shooters. You got like Call of Duty,
Counter-Strike.
you know, it's got like sports games. You got FIFA, Madden, Rocket League, stuff like that. Right now, it's just Street Fighter, and it's a huge explosion. Everybody's getting excited. I'm watching NBA games, and it's not just announcing that E-League is on TV. They're talking about Street Fighter and their memories growing up.
Yeah.
So, what was the game that you would most like to see join Street Fighter and kind of that thing?
Wow.
Would you want to be a part of it too? Like, what game do you want to see?
There's a lot of right answers and a lot of wrong answers to this. Hey!
All right. Just for the people at home, the question is, so there's a lot of clustered games around esports, whether it's League of Legends and Dota and Counter-Strike and different kind of shooters, but Street Fighter is standing by itself in the fighting game space right now. What would Joe like to see sort of in there, not melty blood?
I'm going to give two answers to this, because the first one, I think honestly the most beneficial game would probably be Smash. And I say that like honestly, I think having Smash there would be, it wouldn't be anything wrong. It would probably propel all of us to other heights, because the Smash scene is gigantic. So to have more people have eyes on it, you know, who everybody knows Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody knows that. Honestly, the other game I think that goes along that everybody knows would probably be Marvel Infinite, because Marvel has done such a good job at marketing their movies and their characters. Every kid is going to pick up Marvel Infinite and be like, I like Iron Man, I like Wolverine, and that we're going to have a whole new generation of players just because based on the movies. But then I'll say Guilty Gear after that. Then I'll say Guilty Gear. No, I'm actually a huge Guilty Gear fan. I actually really enjoy anime games tremendously. I think they're actually super fun games. I'm not just saying that because I like you guys, but I really do enjoy Guilty Gear very much. As some of you guys in here do know, but...
You keep that quiet.
What's up?
Usually I ask a lot of like OGs the question, but where do you see yourself within the next 5 years in this scene?
Where I see myself in the next 5 years for people at home. I'm not done with Street Fighter V, and I kind of feel like I want to make some noise in Marvel Infinite. You know what I mean? I'm going to look at that game the same way I looked at Street Fighter V, because as much as people know me for playing Street Fighter, but a lot of my friends know that I play every single game. I play Blitzkampf. I was just playing Melty Blood the other day. What else was I playing? I was playing Nitro Blast Plusters. Yeah, I was just playing Guilty Gear. Like, I like playing fighting games. So not that I think it's wrong. I just want to be known as a good fighting game player, not just a good Street Fighter player. You know, so I kind of want to see if I can make some noise and when Marvel Infinite comes out. And then depending on where the scene goes, I don't know. Maybe would I be doing something like hosting things on E-League or something like that if that becomes popular? I'm not sure. But for now, I'm still going to be a player and an organizer. And then depending on what doors open up within the scene as it grows, then I'll see what's going on from there. But for now, I'm just going to organize and try to take some names in Marvel. That's it. Yes, Chibi Uncle.
I remember you had an interview when Street Fighter V dropped, and you said something along the lines of how the game is really, I wouldn't say basic, but it had confined itself within like how Street Fighter, you know how it operates, and how you were hoping the skill and V-trigger like kind of break itself.
Yeah. I actually think Season 2 did make that happen, where I feel like the V-triggers and some of the character development in early Street Fighter and to what they have now, it's completely different. You know what I mean? Like, you have V-triggers, like, for instance, like, whatever, Ryu's V-trigger and whatever and stuff like that. But then you have, like, Rog, and you have Laura, and you have Urien, and you have Ibuki. I feel like that second set of characters, like, they really spent more time on changing how they would play, and it becomes different. It becomes a brand new game when characters have certain V triggers. But I feel like in the beginning of 5, it was kind of like, you know, you were still just playing like a really basic game of Street Fighter. Where, you know, now I think all the season, most Season 2 characters and even the other DLC characters in general, not just Season 2 characters. Excuse me. I feel like they do break that mold a little bit. That kind of take you out of the box. Maybe it's not such a good thing, but they do change it a little bit.
Spoken like a Urien player. Okay. I don't know. You could choose questions.
Sure.
Oh, one more.
What's your favorite fighting game of all time?
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is easily. Oh yeah, sorry. My favorite fighting game of all time is definitely Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and then KOF 98 2002, and then Guilty Gear Accent Core are my top 3 fighting games. Accent Core, not plus R. Accent Core.
He got 1 out of 3 of those right.
Yes. Apocalypse.
Favorite character for Marvel Infinite is Apocalypse.
Apocalypse. Probably. I liked seeing Apocalypse. You remember an X-member Street Fighter when he was small before he got big? I was like, I want to use him when he's small, like regular Apocalypse.
Drill hand.
Drill.
Yeah.
But I would. I love villains, so I would say Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, Omega Red, Archangel.
A lot of edgelords in there, Joe.
See, edgelords.
Yeah. All right, I guess we're going to try and move along. I think Joe will still be around to chat. So for anybody whose questions we didn't get to, let's give Joe a hand.
Thank
I'm really
you,
happy
guys.
to be here
Thank you.
with him.
Thank you, NYU. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Thank you, Seth. Seth Killian.
All right, guys. So that was the NYU Spring Fighter sit down with Eli Joe and Seth Killian. I really hope you guys. Oh, hold on. Sorry.
Joe's dad, I guess. And, I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing finals in the other room. Is that right, Gwenna? Are we doing it? So we're going to do Street Fighter in this room over here. So thanks. Stick around.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for staying. Even though I know all of you.
All right, guys. So just give me a bit to get everything ready for the blow up. All right, yeah. So hang tight, and we'll be right back.